classic, indie, punk, alternative, easy, hard, raps, rhymes, mixes, and drops. We'll give you kick-ass music because we're WPSC 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio. Sound good?
WPSC FM 88.7, Wayne, New Jersey.
Part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network. Brave New Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guest and are not necessarily supported by WPSC 88.7 FM, station management, or the station owner, William Patterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you, and yes, indeed, it is a fantastic morning. The fact that we are breathing and still alive on top of the grass, as one can say, makes it a good morning. If you can hear the sound of my voice, you're listening to another edition of the Reading Circle with Marc Medley, coming to you live each Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m., with the exception of mornings that I have double or triple headers like we do this morning. This morning we have a Reading Circle triple header on tap. My first guest is already on the line, so without further ado, we're going to do our thing that we always do in the beginning of the show, which is to give you the weather, read from 2 passages, and then on to interviewing our guests. So I'm not going to waste any more time because we have a tight schedule this morning. So I'm going to give you the weather real quickly in the New Jersey area where I am. 32.6 degrees. Man, somebody told me this was April. Well, okay, we'll take it. 32.6. However, we're going up to a high today of 60. Expect abundant sunshine, partly cloudy tonight, dropping back to 38. Then tomorrow, Sunday, partly cloudy skies, high of 62, a low of 40, a few clouds from time to time. On Monday, expected to be partly cloudy in the morning, increasing clouds with periods of showers later in the day, a few clouds, low near 45 Monday night. And Tuesday, partly cloudy skies in the morning will give way to cloudy skies during the afternoon, high of 64, low of 42. And rounding out the forecast on Wednesday, except for a few clouds, mainly sunny, high of 69. That's more spring, summer-like, low of 46. That rounds out the forecast. Equipped yourself accordingly to keep you whatever you want to be kept, whether it's dry, whether it's warm, or whatever it is that you're cool, or whatever it is you want to be kept. Equip yourself accordingly based on the various forecasts. Well, those of you who've been listening to the show for any amount of time, you know I read from 2 books. Every now and again they vary, but I always seem to come back to these 2 because they just seem to serve the purpose the best. So out of the book, What Can Happen When We Pray, for April the 25th, it says, A Brand New Me. Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord. Today's prayer: Jesus, Master, Guardian of my soul, hear my prayer. Let your strong spirit fill me today with courage and strength so that I may follow you and serve you. You know that I am often impatient with myself. I confess that I have also been impatient with you. Reveal to me the wisdom of your plan for my life. I trust you to show me what to do and when to do it. Even if today is a day that I need do nothing but wait on you. Amen. Today's reflection. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. once wrote about the strength that people need in order to truly love each other. He knew that this kind of strength was often hidden in the character of people whose lives were marked by suffering and injustice. I know people who have this kind of strength. They resist the temptation to return evil for evil. They combat violence with a spirit of peace. They are not weak, nor are they fools. Today they remind me that I have something important to accomplish with the strength that God has given me. Today I will be strong for God and of service to someone else. That's for April the 25th, A Brand New Me. from Iyanla Van Zant's book, Until Today, for April the 25th. She says, can you believe April is almost over already? Seemed like it just came in. I am willing to acknowledge the truth must be told in a way it can be heard. Some people are very good at using a razor blade with a smile. Their words are so smooth, so sweet, and so soft-spoken it may take you a moment to realize that you have been cut. While you are standing there bleeding, no hemorrhaging, they put the razor blade away long enough to ask you, "What's the matter, honey?" Often the person is speaking the truth, but truth is not the issue here. How the truth is told is the issue. A sweet, gentle, smiling razor blade is still a razor blade. Most people are open to hearing the truth when it is said in a way they can hear it. People cannot hear you when you make them wrong. People cannot hear you when you attack their weaknesses. People cannot hear what you are saying if by saying it you are making yourself better than they are. Do not make the mistake of believing that the people you speak to do not know what you really mean. They do. If there is one thread of judgment, of criticism, or denigration in what you say, they are not going to hear you. In fact, they're going to shut you out. If you want to ensure that people will hear you when you talk about difficult or uncomfortable situations, speak to them from your heart. Speak to them from a place of compassion and concern. See yourself as their teacher, their healer, the step to their next level of spiritual and emotional growth. See them as the part of yourself that does not like to be wrong, does not like to be criticized, does not like to be cut to shreds in the process of learning. Until today, you may have told the truth in a stinging, biting, or cutting way that meant people could not hear you. Just for today, practice telling yourself some truth about yourself that is difficult for you to hear. When you master the art of telling yourself the truth lovingly, use what you have learned when talking to other people. Today, I'm devoted to learning how to tell the truth in a gentle, compassionate, and loving manner. You know the order of the show. It's now time for me to introduce my guests. And then by that time, I'll share some information with you and we'll come right on back. And then my guest and I will begin chatting. I'm on my guest's website and she says, "Hi, my name is Denise Rezsonya, and I am a Christian author and speaker who advocates for youth. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana with my husband and children. When I'm not working, I enjoy working out, reading, and camping with my family. I grew up in a home without religion, and as such, I found that I had a lot of questions. I found that as I faced the many trials and tribulations of becoming an adolescent and subsequently a tween, I had a real need and desire to know God and to have a religious base. I also found that of my own free will, I was making choices that were not leading anywhere good. As such, when my children were born, I started working with youth through Kids Who Care, a youth service group my daughter and I founded through our church. It was an amazing experience to take youth out to our local community and to do service together. These young children touched many lives, and most profoundly, they touched mine. When Kids Who Cared ended in 2012, there was a hole in my heart only God could fill, and fill it he did. With God's help and prodding, I began to write the Be the Light series. Volume 1 was released in February of 2015, and I will be finishing up Volume 2 for a May 2015 release. I'm very excited and proud of this work. I am humbled when I hear how it is helping families and youth in ways I never dreamed of. Our family has found that Be the Light has opened up biblical-based conversations on issues affecting our children that we wouldn't have had otherwise. We have found that it has brought us closer as a family and has brought us closer to God. We tend to think more about how God wants us to handle situations rather than simply react. It has been incredible to see the many uses this book has. It makes a great reference tool and devotional. It is extremely useful for vacation Bible schools, Sunday school, and Christian camps. It has also been used in discussion groups and detention center ministry donated to youth in foster care and in homeless shelters. I am so amazed each and every day when I see God's plan unfold for this work. And I pray it makes a difference in many lives. Ladies and gentlemen in the Reading Circle audience, welcome to the Reading Circle, Denise Rezsonya. Denise, good morning.
Good morning.
You up early in Indianapolis. I'm so glad you could join me.
Thank you.
Good. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to share some information with our listening audience, and in that time, get your thoughts together if you haven't already been doing that, because we're going to start our conversation in terms of where did it all begin. I think your intro kind of gave us or whet our appetite as to how it all began, but we're going to go ahead and delve a little deeper into that. So don't you dare move. Those of you in the listening audience, you know the drill. Get on every last one of your social media sites and let them know that Denise is on the air with me. If they're not in the northern New Jersey area, tell them to tune in on their computers or mobile devices on gobrave.org. We can be heard anywhere around the world as long as they have internet connectivity on gobrave.org. That's GOBRAVE.org. And when you get to the site, there's a nice little box in the middle of it that says listen. Click on the listen button, and if your speaker's on, lo and behold, you'll be hearing our voices. So let everyone you know that this is an interview they need to hear.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
I started going cold turkey. Well, at least when I'm in the car.
I know I shouldn't do it, but it's so hard to stop. That's why I hide it from myself, so I won't be tempted.
I used to do it all the time. I stopped by locking it in my glove compartment.
My friend used to do it way too much. Now I turn it off when we're in the car.
My solution is simple. I just don't do it.
There are lots of ways to stop yourself and others from texting and driving. How will you stop? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed you are. You're listening to a Reading Circle triple header this morning, and my first guest is up at bat, Denise Rezsonya. Speaking of up at bat, and I know, Barry, if you're listening, I know you're saddened this morning because last night the Yankees and the Mets squared off, and the Mets was undefeated, and they played my Yankees, and the Yankees put a stop to that. So for all you Mets fans out there, you have my sympathy this morning, but the Yankees showed who rules New York. All right, I digress, as Sophia can say in the Golden Girls. My guest is a Christian author, speaker, and youth advocate. That is Denise Rezsonya. Am I saying that right, Denise?
You are.
Rezsonya, that's correct. It sounds just like it's spelled. So it's Rezsonya.
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
All right, now, I'm looking in the bio that I just read, and you said you did not grow up in a religious setting.
That is correct.
What caused the shift?
Well, when I was about 11 years old, I had been going through some abuse and kind of a difficult situation. And so when I was 11, I just remember it was Christmas Eve, and I was laying there that night, and God just came to me and spoke to me so loudly that there was no denying that's who it was. And he said, yes, basically you're in the midst of these circumstances, but you still have a lot to be thankful for. And that was a big eye-opener for me. And I started to look around and say, well, yeah, I do have a lot to be thankful for. And so that was the night that I consider that I gave myself to Christ. And I started praying that night, and every night subsequent to that, the same prayer. I still say the same prayer now that I said at 11 years old, actually, which is kind of funny because it's a child's prayer, but I still say it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not surprised at all tonight, because I don't have a problem with breaking out of now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I don't have a problem breaking that out. Same thing at dinner time, So I understand, and I'm sure God understands as well. I just found it interesting in terms of, was anyone talking to you, or had you been around other kids who go to church, or how did you know it was the voice of God? And I'm going somewhere with this question.
That's a great question. and I'm not sure that I have a firm answer. I in 6th grade, and this is discussed a little bit in the prologue of the book, God put a young woman in my life named Angela, and which actually translates to angel. And she came walking into my 6th grade classroom, and we immediately became best friends. And Angela, we are still best friends to this day, and Angela has always served as like a faith resource for me. She's very devout in her religion, and she was always a person I could go to and ask questions, because I had a lot of them. We didn't talk about religion at all in my home. We didn't own a Bible. There were no resources in my home. You know, we didn't go to church, so I kind of had to look elsewhere. So Angela was a great resource for me, but as far as how I knew it was God, there was just there was never any question in my mind. I mean, the voice was just clear as day, you know, that this is me, I am here, and I'm with you.
I asked the question because those who are regular listeners to the show, at some point, if they've listened really over time to various guests that I've had on, I've shared this story in terms of, and everybody hasn't had that particular experience, because God speaks in many ways. It's not always audible. And many times it might be symbolic. It might be in something going on in the weather. It might be something going on, you know, just in general. But there are times when God does speak audibly, and it's not always the big lightning and thunderbolt that people see in the fairy tales. It could be a soft-spoken voice, or it could be a very distinct voice, just as you're describing. And I know, and interestingly enough, your book is called Be the Light. And that's exactly what was told to me at the time. I was vice principal in a very rough school. And I'd served there for about 3 years at that point. And the principal was a very tough principal. I laughed when I was reading that text this morning about being able to tell the truth with the razor so sweet, because of her, she popped into my mind. And I love her dearly, but that was her. And that's what I was thinking about as I was reading that passage. I had perfect attendance up to that time, 9-10 straight years without missing a day. I'd taken off a particular day and said, that's it. And I was getting ready to go to the superintendent and ask for a transfer. And I distinctly heard God's voice say to me, I sent you there to be a light.
Wow.
And at that point, I backed off of the transfer. I had a whole new attitude. And within the year, the principal at that time was moved to central office, to another school, and I was now promoted to principal.
Wow.
There have been other times I've heard God's voice as well, and it's not always. I was going to say, some people think like, oh, you're one of those wackos. No, it's not one. It's not something that happens on a constant basis in that form. Now, God, like I said earlier, God speaks in many forms. Sometimes it might be in a book that you're reading. It might be in, you know, a situation or a scenario. But there are times he speaks. So I'm saying all that to say, I believe your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So now, so now you come home, you've had this experience. What does it do to the rest of the family? Because you're not in a religious setting.
Well, and that's a great question. I tried throughout kind of my teen years. As I said in the bio, I had so many questions, and I always felt like just lost. You know, I knew I was looking for something, but didn't quite know what I was looking for. And I knew that my friends who regularly attended church, or who had religion in their family and who had Christ, they had that light, and I wanted it. They had a peace about them. They were calm, and I wanted it. And so it was difficult growing up, just because I didn't really have much of an opportunity to go to church. However, I did have some friends who were kind enough to take me, and I never quite found the right fit for me. And then when I met my husband and we made the decision to get married, I was clear from day one that this was very important to me, that we attend church and that our children attend church. And thankfully, you know, God put a man in my life who has that same belief. And so we do raise our children going to church and with a Christian background, and are even actually working through the Be the Light book together in our home. So, you know, in our house, it's a lot more open. We talk about how God is working in our lives and prayer, and we pray together, and it's wonderful.
I know that's right. Go ahead, keep going.
My family back home, I was actually 27 when I was baptized. My husband, ironically, is my godfather. But something that's been really cool, and I don't know that, my faith has any impact on this, but my brother actually just got baptized within the last couple years, and so that's been really awesome to see.
I would be willing, if I were a gambling man, to bet yes, it does. Because again, people a lot of times may not listen per se to what we say, but they do watch what we do. And in many cases, our lifestyles are the only Bible that people will see. I mean, there are some that are just not going to pick up that black and gold emblazoned book sitting on the coffee table and open it and read it. But they do watch to see how you handle them. Just like you said, I noticed that these kids had a certain peace. I noticed that when situations came up, how these kids handle it, and you didn't know what it was, but you wanted it. I would be willing to wager that your brother, probably having experienced you or been around you or heard you or seen you, probably didn't say it, but probably said, you know what, whatever it is Denise has, I think I need some of that too.
It's very much possible. Absolutely.
It is possible, and I wouldn't rule it out. We can't, as you said, I can't necessarily say it was, but I don't think it took away from the process either. I think, if anything, it contributed to it.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, one of the reasons that the book, I designed the book the way that I did, is for families that are similar to mine growing up, that don't have a Bible in the home, or children that might not have access to them. Everything that they could want or need is in this one book. They don't need, it's wonderful to have a Bible to supplement it, but if they don't or don't have access to it, hopefully there's a chance that they will pick this book up, and it does have everything right there for them.
That's an excellent point. I'm going to share some more information with the listening audience, and I'm going to pick up on that point when we come back. Listening audience, don't you dare move unless you're getting closer to your speakers, or unless you're going on your computer to your social media sites and saying, look now, this is the one you need to hear, because this could be life-changing. So get on all of your websites, get on all of your social media sites, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's any of them, Pinterest, whatever it is that you can get the message out about someone tuning into GoBrave.org this morning, they need to do so. Because right now, what we are talking about is life-changing. It's not weird. It's not wacko. It's not one of those people. It's none of that. It is a power and a force that can change your life. And Denise is right on point. And the fact that she just said something about many people may not have the Bible, but they may have this book. I want to pick up on that when we come back. I'm going to share this information with you, and we'll rejoin Denise in a couple of seconds.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Yeah. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, bubble on Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap us next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
All right. The Reading Circle is on the air, and I'm having a wonderful conversation with Denise Rezsonya. And right before the break, Denise was talking about, and let me fill you in on exactly the book she's talking about, Be the Light, a Christian-based reference book for youth, Volume 1. As I said in the bio, released in February 2015, Be the Light is a Christian-based series geared for the teen tween. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the term tween, T-W-E-E-N, it is exactly what they said. They're in between childhood and teenage. It's like that. That's why it's called tween. So teen, tween market. It was developed for children ages 9 to 16, but may also appeal to other youth based on their level of maturity. The books are designed to either be worked through by an adult and child together or for the child to work through independently. Be the Light is also being utilized as a tool for Christian Catholic schools, discussion groups, Sunday school, youth and foster care, detention centers, homeless centers, and it makes a wonderful gift for communion and confirmation students. And right before I shared that information with you, Denise said something that was key. And that was that every home may not have a Bible, but the child may wind up with this book. And Denise, I say all the time, because there are many Christians, believe it or not, that the only book you can read is the Bible. Like they get like thrown off whenever you start referencing other books or recommending, well, why don't you read this? Not realizing that that other book may be the path that leads the person to the Bible.
Right.
And so if a child now comes across Be the Light, or an adult working with children comes across Be the Light, it may spark the interest in now going to the Bible.
Absolutely. And I think the Bible can be, at least for me, I found the Bible to be very intimidating. I still find it intimidating to some degree. So this book, even for my children and for myself, is kind of a good avenue where we can sit down and it's just written in real simple terms that they can relate to. And then, we cross-reference it with our actual Bible.
So let's talk a little bit about, now you've made the decision to write the book. Kind of like, where did you go from the point where you said, I'm going to be an author, or I'm going to write a book? What happened after that? Did you just sit down at your computer or your laptop, or kind of talk us through how did Be the Light come to fruition?
Sure. It actually goes back to what you were saying earlier on your point about what can happen when we pray. About 2 years ago, God just put it on my heart after Kids Who Care ended. That ministry ended, that it was time for me to do something else. And it became clear through prayer that God wanted me to write a book. As a parent, I was looking around for this type of resource for my own children, thought how helpful it would have been to me as a young person, and couldn't find such a thing. Just something simple that was devotional style that we could either do together or they could do alone. But I also wanted it to have the actual journaling space inside the book. I wanted it to be one product that had everything right there that they would need, and that it would just be simple and not intimidating. So when God put it on my heart to write this book, again, 2 years ago, I sat down, I literally turned off all outside. I had no social media at all, and just through prayer, just sat down and focused. Okay, God, what do you want me to say to today's youth? And so I just started writing, and every day I was getting up, and I actually do have a day job, the one that I have to do to pay the bills, but so I was battling back and forth because I've got this, I work at home, so on one screen I'm trying to get my day job done, and on the other screen I'm trying to write, and so it was quite comical, I'm sure. I mean, God had to be laughing because I'm just like, okay, all right, I'm trying to balance both, and I was back and forth. So for 2 years straight, as I could, I just wrote. And then what was interesting was God put it on my heart in February that, okay, where this book is right now, you just need to cut it off and you need to publish. It's time to move forward, move to the next step. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't absolutely terrified, but, I put my trust in Him and said, okay, if this is, you feel it's time, it's time. So I wound up writing so much that there is a volume 2. I had to just go ahead and cut it off. But what was interesting to me, and I have this all in email proof, this was completely unbeknownst to me, I go and I put the book out, and it hits me, something happened around this time in February. I'm thinking I was baptized around this time. So I emailed my godmother and said, do you happen to know the day I was baptized? And she said, well, I have your certificate sitting right here. It's today, 15 years to the day. So the book came out literally 15 years to the day that I was baptized.
And
again,
and you See, this is another example of why when things like that happen, I always use that as I was saying, see, that's why I know there is a higher power. I know there is a God.
Yeah.
There is something orchestrating things like that, because there are some things, no matter how well man plans, could not do. Now, your intent was not to release that book on the same date, but God did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's symbolic. That's a way of God affirming and confirming and everything else for you that this is what you were supposed to do.
Exactly, yeah. And it's been an incredible journey ever since.
So did you self-publish or did you go to a publishing house?
I self-published, because I was brand new to writing books, and B, I really had no clue what I'm doing. I'll just readily admit that.
No, and that's okay, because where we are now technological wise is we have the ability to do that, where 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago, they did not have the ability to self-publish, not in the manner we do now. You really had to go to a publishing house. And you went through that process of waiting for the rejection letters and going to all the various houses. But now we can pretty much do all of that for ourselves and kind of throw it out there and let the chips fall where they may. What was it like for you now? Because clearly, if you had not written or done self-publishing before, you not only did you have to learn the process of writing a book, now you had to learn the self-publishing process.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you?
It wasn't too bad. I used Amazon's publishing company that they work with, CreateSpace, and I felt like it was a very user-friendly experience. So that part of it was pretty easy overall, just the challenges of trying to figure out how you do formatting and stuff like that. But it was what came after that the challenges of marketing a book became very evident very quickly.
Correct. Because there's the talent side and there's the business side. Some people love both. Some people like one versus the other. I mean, it's a various combinations. Some people hate the business side. They love the talent side and like, look, I'll pay somebody else to do the business side. But at the end of the day, you do want the books in the hands of people. And a lot of authors and a lot of us who are creative, not that we don't want money, but that's not the intent or the motivation behind doing what we're doing. So for a lot of us, just getting it into the hands of people is more important than the money that may come from it. What was it like for you now after you've gone through the process and you've had Be the Light, or you have Be the Light in your hand, because it's a paperback, am I correct, or is it hard copy? Is it hardback or paperback?
It's paperback.
Okay, so when you received your copy, because I'm looking at the one here on the web, it's like the light brown with the sunset going down with the water, and at the bottom it says Denise M. Rezsonya. What was it like for you to see that cover with Denise M. Rezsonya on it?
Amazing, absolutely incredible. Because, again, getting back to God's plan, when I was a kid, I wrote constantly. It was a great outlet for me. I wanted to be a writer, and I actually wanted to be a journalist. And then when I got to college, my thoughts changed, and I went a different route. I actually went business. And so I had pretty much just assumed, okay, that wasn't God's plan in my life. Never, ever in a million years did I ever dream that, yes, I would now be an author and a journalist, but it would have come to me in such an incredible way, in a way that's going to help others. I mean, it's amazing. So to see that cover, it brought me to tears, honestly. It was amazing. It was a dream come true.
Now, for those of us who are in the Bible, for those of us who are Christians, or for those of us who are religious, or however, whatever way you want to say that, we may get the metaphor of being the light, because in the Bible it's mentioned several times about light. What is the message you're trying to get across for our teens and our tweens, particularly with a title such as Be the Light?
Well, it's honestly, it's pretty simple. It's that I think, as I walk around each day and I see just little gestures that people make, where maybe someone holds the door for me, or they smile at me, or they take the time. For example, your principal, your teacher, they took the time to be there and to do what they're doing for you. So it's just kind of a paying it forward thing. Smile at someone, be kind to them. It doesn't have to be that, this big, complicated, you don't necessarily have to be called to do mission work in another country. If you are, that's fantastic, but you can be the light. You can make a difference right in your own community, in your own day, in your own family, and it can be really simple. And so that's the premise behind it.
And you're absolutely right. And my guest that I had last week, we were talking about giving, because I had a pastor on last Saturday morning, Manuel Mukes, and his book was Givers Are Getters. And we talked about this whole notion of motive behind whatever it is that you do. And the same with his book, where it depends, because you could mess the whole thing up if your intent from the beginning is to get for yourself, opposed to, I do what I do for the love of other people, for the love of mankind, for my love of God, this, that, and the other. It's the same thing with being the light. Those things you just described are tiny. But if you do them in the right manner, where you're not doing it trying to get self-glory, trying to bring accolades to yourself, you would be surprised just how much light you do wind up shedding on other people's lives. Because the whole metaphor of light in this whole thing is that the world in and of itself is full of darkness. Mm-hmm. And the darkness is represented, or shall I say, darkness represents all the evil and violent things that are going on. And then you have somebody that comes across now that's going counter to that. So the things that Denise just talked about, the holding of the door, the smile, for somebody that's having a bad day, you'd be amazed what a smile does for them. And like she said, it doesn't have to be anything monumental, because that's where we kind of get messed up too. That, if we're not flying off to South Africa or Africa somewhere to do missionary work, we think we're not doing anything. Not true. For me, I said a couple of minutes ago, I'm the principal of a school. And for me, just hearing the words "thank you" from anybody, it touches me in a strange way for some reason, but particularly from a child. And yesterday I had an assembly program where we brought in some gentlemen who had made some very bad choices in their lives, and now they're paying the consequences for it. Either they'd been in jail or they're in a rehabilitation center or what have you, and they came to talk to my students. So as I was outside at dismissal, one of my students came to me and said, "Mr. Medley, thank you." And the little girl, I told her, I said, "Well, we really are about trying to change and to save your lives." And she said, "I know you are." And just hearing that from that kid made the rest of my day. Now, she thought I had made her day by putting the presentation together, but she don't know that she made my day by acknowledging it and coming back up to me and saying thank you in a sincere manner. I say all that to say that the tiniest gestures, when they're sincerely done from the heart, act as light. Go ahead, Denise.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and that's exactly it. I mean, one of the points in the book talks about just saying thank you. And so after my children and I had worked through that point, my daughter came home and said, "Mom, I wanted you to know that I said thank you to my cafeteria workers today." And I said, "And so what was the response?" And she said, "They smiled." And I'm like, that's it. You get it. That's the light. It can be that easy.
It's amazing. People don't realize the power of what we call as kids the magic words. They don't realize the power of please, thank you, I'm sorry, I love you. Those in my school, they're hanging up all over the place, because that's what I'm trying to foster and encourage, is using those words naturally and not for any intrinsic gain or anything else. But just, you would think that just by nature and by instinct that when someone does something for you, that naturally you would say thank you, but that's not natural anymore. It amazes me how people take for granted that somebody's supposed to do something for them.
Yeah.
So, all right, be the light. Now, you said it took you about 2 years to get it together?
Yes.
Okay, and it's for 9 to 16 years old. And I know you said your children helped you on it. What has been the feedback you've received from other children who have now started working through the book?
So far, I've gotten very positive feedback. People find it really user-friendly and applicable to what they're going through. The first book, I like to say it kind of scratches the surface. And that way, if it's somebody who, similar to me growing up, or youth that maybe are in detention centers or in situations where they're not necessarily open to this, to the spiritual, the faith-based work, it just kind of scratches that surface and presents it in a way that I think isn't intimidating and might hopefully engage them to then subsequently go to Volume 2, which I'm finishing up the draft of now. And Volume 2 really kind of starts to dig deeper and get more into, like, what is sin and kind of some more deeper topics from there.
And again, wise approach, because for many people, beating them over the head with the Bible actually turns them off, and they go the other way.
Mm-hmm. It did that for me even. You know, I felt like when I was trying to figure out this whole, you know, what direction do I go as far as faith years back, I felt like if people were too much in my face or you know, quote-unquote Bible thumpers, it did that. It turned me off. And, you know, thankfully for me, God had a bigger frying pan he was hitting me over the head with.
Exactly.
And he was very persistent.
That's exactly right. But it's kind of like, look, and that's why, again, biblically it says, I will make you fishers of men. If we do our part right as being the fisherman, because if you, again, metaphorically, if you think of what fishermen do, fishermen catch the fish. They throw them up in the boat, on the bucket, or what have you, and then generally they turn them over to somebody else for them to be cleaned and processed for sale or whatever. It's the same thing. It is our job to fish for the men, and at that point, we turn them over to God, and God will do the cleaning and everything else. Sometimes, Denise, what we try to do is we try to be the fisherman, the cleaner, the salesperson, the everything, and then whenever things don't happen, we get frustrated.
Yes.
So if we do our part of just doing the fishing, and that's what I mean by lifestyle, that's what I mean by, like she said, being the light in small things such as the pleases and the thank yous, or the holding the door, or the, you know, picking up the piece of paper, or just, you know, having the smile or talking with somebody. If you can do those things, I firmly believe that people will do the same thing that you did, Denise, when you were younger. They will start to question, wait, there's something different about you. I don't know what it is, but I want it. And once you get them to that point, even if they don't want it, the more they start being around you, the more they start seeing, it's like, okay, I don't, why is it that whenever somebody's yelling and cursing and hollering at you, you're not hollering and yelling and cursing back? Why is it whenever you're going through situations that blew somebody else away, you're sitting there saying, you know what, it's going to be all right? At some point, people begin to like, I don't know what it is, but it's something different about you. That's the perfect opportunity for the witness.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
A lot of times let God do the big frying pan. We'll just kind of put the line out there and catch the fish, and then God can do the big frying pan thing. All right, we're going to share some more information with you. We have about 15 more minutes left in this segment, and then some more guests. Actually, my next two guests, Denise, are actually going to be here live in the studio. One, my 8 o'clock guest, actually, I think used to live here, now lives in Atlanta, but happened to be here over the weekend. And so we scheduled him in. And then there's the 7 o'clock set that is from here. So my next two guests in the second and third hours are actually going to be live here in the studio, as Denise is calling me all the way from Indianapolis. And she shared with me that she actually, did you say you were born here, or you grew up here, or did some time here in Jersey?
I was born in Jersey and lived there till I was 12. Yep,
okay,
Toms River.
So she is I know where Toms River is. She's a Jersey girl, y'all. All right. We have the Jersey roots. I'm going to share this information with you. It's still time for you to get on your social media sites and tell them to catch this last 15 minutes with Denise, and then they can hang out for the next 2 hours as well. Tell them to go to gobrave.org. Don't even tell them why. Just tell them, you know what, go to gobrave.org. Use your influence to have your friends who are up this early in the morning go to gobrave.org.
Hey there, I'm Eric Dolan.
And I'm Sebastian Escobar.
And along with Pat Gibbons, we present to you the Monday Morning Blend, every single Monday from 6 to 9 a.m.
As we present to you the most original content in radio, as well as making your morning commute a little less terrible.
Join us every Monday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on WPSC 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed, the Reading Circle. And now you just heard about the Monday Morning Blend. That show is in the same time slot on Monday morning, which is in the 6 o'clock hour. Denise, I've been doing the show now. This is the 14th season, and it's been in this time slot the longest. But it is always interesting and amazing to me how many people really are up this early in the morning. And I guess for some it doesn't. For me, it seems early, but for some, that's the usual time of day. I know I watched the news and they broadcast their 4:30 in the morning show. I was like, wow. There's news people up and on the air at 4:30 in the morning. So there, I guess people are getting ready for work or what have you, and there are people that are up this early. And for those of you who may not be up, I do archive the shows on YouTube, so you will have the opportunity to hear it later if you didn't want to join us live. So do you have the book anywhere near you, Denise?
I sure do.
Would you mind reading an excerpt or a passage or something from it? Because I like, and I've gotten away from it lately, but I really like the audience to hear the author read from their own work.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'm going to start right at the beginning, and that is point number 1. It's what's on the inside that matters. Sometimes when someone looks different, people tease that person or do not want to be friends with them. Sometimes people can be mean and judgmental based on what they see on the outside. Remember that it's what's on the inside that matters. From 1 Samuel 16:7b, the Lord does not look at the things man looks at. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And that one just has one Bible reference.
All right, and that is so true. Well, especially in the teen-tween area, because at that time in your life, you really are very conscious of how people see you or think about you. I mean, It's like their entire being kind of rests on what their little buddies or their peer group says about them. Matter of fact, in many cases, they'll listen to their peer group before they listen to the adults or their parents. So that is absolutely correct in terms of, and that's a hard sell message, because you try to tell people, that's one of on a daily basis I deal with my kids in terms of, why'd you do that? Because he talked about me, because he hit me, because okay, what were your other options that you could have done in terms of response? And it's the hardest thing to them get to the point where they say either ignore them or either go tell an adult or what have you. They always feel like they have to take it upon themselves to react and strike back. So absolutely. So so the book is kind of laid out that way, where you have short snippets.
Yeah. One thing that I am going to be better about in volume 2, and again, it was more that I felt God on my heart to go ahead and cut this book where it was and get it out. And I didn't quite know what I was doing. I'll just readily admit that up front, because this was a faith-based project, and I was just going where I felt God led me to go. However, in volume 2, I will be better about, there will consistently be a short blurb like that. There will be 2 Bible verses per every point, and then there will be 3 bulleted discussion points. And then that way, if people need those discussion points, they have them there, the discussion questions. And then I will go back after volume 2 is released here in the next few weeks and kind of update volume 1 to be that same format.
Well, you do know you don't have to apologize for that, right? No,
hindsight is 20/20, and when I look back now, I'm like, okay, that probably would have been a more effective way to do it. But the truth is, I went into this so blindly. Honestly, I didn't particularly have a plan. It was God's plan, and I just said, okay, you want me to write a book? I'll write a book. You want me to publish this book? I'll publish this book. And since then, the path has become so much more clear since it launched, and so now I can kind of figure out ways to make it an even more beneficial tool for people.
But when you think about anything in life in terms of progression, that's generally the way it works. In terms of the first one, it will, in your mind or anybody else's mind, be very good. But as you say, you're feeling your way through, and then by the time you do it the next time, okay, I've done this before. I've gone through this motion. I'm not trying to find my way in. So naturally, it should be a progression of growth by the time you get to your second one. I know the listening audience is probably tired of me selfishly promoting the music that plays in the background, but the music that I use each week on the show in the background is my own music. Right now, the music that's playing is from my second release. And I understand exactly what you're saying. And my first release, I love it. I really do. But I felt like I got into more depth. I felt like I really had gotten the recording process down by the time I got to my second project. Now I'm still like trying to motivate myself to get into the third project, because people say, look, you got to get back in the studio again. You got to get back in the studio. And I say, okay, because it's kind of like I move kind of like on the spirit. Like whenever I'm inspired, because that's where the word inspired comes from, in spirit. Whenever the inspiration is there, I can go lock the door and knock out 5 or 6 tracks. So I'm saying all that to say I know exactly what you're talking about with the book, and you don't have to apologize for that, because the first version is what it's meant to be. And what God meant for you for the second one to be, it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me a little bit about the second version, because you said that was supposed to come out in May. So is that on time, or are you running ahead or behind schedule? 'Cause, matter of fact, I see the cover already for Be the Light, too.
Yeah, the cover's ready, and actually, I will also be that particular graphic with the hand with the key is going to be now the symbol for this series. So there will be a new cover for Volume 1 that will come out with the re-release. But yes, the project is right on schedule. I am finishing my draft. Actually, I've been up since about 2 o'clock this morning working on it, and that draft will be in my editor's box by end of day tomorrow, so that we can get all our edits done and get it out of here and in people's hands by the end of May.
That's why you sounded so alive when I picked up the phone this morning. Denise sounded so alive. Oh, you hadn't been to sleep, or either you woke up earlier.
You know what? I am up early every day, so anybody that's listening that is also an early bird like me, I'm up tweeting and Facebooking if they want to, say hi.
Oh, okay. So for you, this isn't early. This is like your normal time of day.
Yeah, this is like lunchtime for me. I'm always up at about 2 o'clock in the morning. So.
Well, I tell you, I applaud you in terms of the age group that you're going after, because the quicker and the younger we can get the kids focused on doing things the right way and just being the positive being versus the negative being, because the world just has enough negativity and violence going on, and we really have to step up our game to get the positivity going. I always laugh and tell people, there's no question God is on his job, but there's no question the devil is on his too. And we need to do everything we can to make sure that we are being, exactly as your book says, being the light. Because the truth of the matter is, you're being one of two things. Either you're being a light or you're dark. The two don't go together. That's why if you ever walk into a dark room and you turn on the light, darkness is chased away.
Oh my gosh. I love that you said that exact phrase, because if you go to point 17 in the book, that's the exact point. It says, have you ever walked into a dark room? Maybe you got frightened and frustrated or even stubbed your toe. What's the solution? Turn on the light.
Exactly. The two cannot coexist. It is impossible to have dark and light together at the same time. If you turn out the light, you do have your darkness. If you turn on the light, darkness is chased away. So, with that being said, that is what our lives ought to be like. And trust me on this. I deal with people on a daily. I've been dealing with people all of my life, from an instructional point of view, or a musical point of view, or a teaching point of view, a business point of view, or what have you. And you know the difference between someone who is struggling with something, who is just mean, who's just, and the thing is, this is the other part of it, Denise, like you just said, God knows the heart. People are just, for the most part, I don't believe, just negative and mean just for the sake of being negative and mean. I think in many cases things have happened that have driven them to be that way. And in many, yes. And so a lot of times when they come across those of us who are really trying to be the light, back to that darkness again, because they've had a lot of darkness going on in their life that's driving them to be mean and nasty. When they come across someone who is the light, it now, just as I used the example of turning on the light in the room, it changes their life. Because that's what us being the light is all about, is changing the lives of others who may be in the darkness. And and all of these are metaphor, they're figurative language, folks, that can be taken literally if you start using examples that I just used in terms of the room and the light and light switch. But we're talking here a world that is filled with darkness. You heard Denise say Volume 2 gets into sin. Sin is the darkness. That's the darkness. And the light that we're trying to provide is love. Love is light. All right. So I tell you what, Denise, we're down to the last 5 minutes or so, and I always turn the mic over to the guest for them to promote any book signings, their website, how they can get the book, whether it's downloadable, whether it's an ebook, whether it's a hard copy, it's a soft copy, whatever it is. addresses. The only thing you cannot say is what the book costs. So you can't do like for $9.95 type deal. You can't do that. But anything short of that, you can share with the listening audience of how they can now get a copy of Be the Light or follow your blog or get your series or what have you. So I'm turning the mic over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. As far as getting the book, probably the easiest way to get any information about me, about the book, and my blog is all in one place, and that is my website, which is DeniseMRezsonya.com, and I will spell it since I have such a difficult last name. It's DENISEM, as in Michelle, Rezsonya, REZSONYA.com. And there are links to my books. All of my social media links are on there. And I do personally check my social media every day. I love it if people follow my Facebook because that's where I kind of put some more of my personal stuff, or Instagram, if you are interested in seeing that kind of thing. And then hopefully the blog, I try to serve up some humor with my inspiration. So hopefully if you read that, you'll enjoy it. And the book is also available on Amazon. There is a Kindle version available on there as well, so you can go directly to Amazon and get it that way, or again, just through my website, DeniseMRezsonya.com.
All right, and I did get your email about the gentleman that you met, and I'm going to contact and reach out to him because he's an author as well. I'm going to reach out to him, and you all met, and you referred him, so I'm always looking for great guests, and I've enjoyed the conversation with you immensely. It is so important, probably even more important than we know, particularly in 2015, because things are going so awry in so many different areas. But we're not surprised because the Bible tells us it's going to happen. But at the same time, it also tells us to be the light. And that's why I'm encouraged by your work, and particularly that we're trying to hit that age group. I know that age group well because I deal with them daily. And if there's ever a group that needs that, it's this group here. Because, again, the little things really do matter. And the more we can get them to connect that, the better off not only will our life be, but their lives will be. So I thank you. I wish you absolutely nothing but the best. We see each other on LinkedIn and the other social media sites. So I'm sure we'll be in touch. I'll be seeing you then. This is being recorded. Like I said, I archive the shows on YouTube. So sometime before the weekend is out, I'll send you the YouTube link and you can share and do whatever you'd like with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you. Again, when I saw you on LinkedIn and you told me what everything was about, I said, oh, by all means, you can come on the show. I said, this message needs to get out.
Thank you very much.
So, all right.
Thank you.
Well, this is your time of day, so I would tell you go on and take a nap or whatever you do, but this is your time of day, so I'll tell you what, just have a blessed day and enjoy the rest of it.
Well, thank you so very much.
All right. Take care now.
All right. Bye-bye.